Welcome back, story lovers. This time, life gets darker. Please consider liking and subscribing, as it makes all the difference, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Chapter 15. The scattered seeds of the disaster, and then a fierce fear, fed by the media, pushed the government into enforcing a lockdown. It would be a treacherous endeavour to leave her home, but Marnie was determined to speak with Tem to persuade him that his plasma may be of high value. Marnie was deeply perturbed by the change in circumstances, but in other ways, it was like reuniting with a familiar but abusive husband who insisted on enforcing control. She'd never dropped her routine of morning temperature taking. Restraining her emotions and removing any thoughts of love was her default position, and the return to that state was not difficult. Marnie pulled the hood of her coat up to protect herself against the rain as she stepped out into deserted streets and the dark dawn of an approaching storm. The atmosphere was sticky and unpleasant, and she noticed a fluttering in her belly. Behind the facades of the houses, old melodramas would play out as tensions rose. She could almost hear the silent weeping of the inhabitants who'd lost the ability to choose. The old and lonely were surgically divided from those who normally offered comfort and support. Even without the sun, Shadow remained at her side, as he always was in times of distress or acute loneliness. They hastily walked down the side streets, avoiding the main thoroughfare. Voices broke the silence, and despite their caution, she spotted a roadblock where a couple of soldiers were asking questions and gauging temperatures. Few trusted the authorities, as they'd manipulated the past crisis to pilgrimage their way towards power and control. Taking away human liberties and purging society of the unwanted, the elderly, disabled and outcast while blaming everything on the hidden killer. We can't beat them, but we may be able to distract them. Shadow's voice entered her head, and glancing around she saw him taking on her persona. Marnie held her breath and watched from a distance as her ghost ambled up to the men. They tried to engage the Shadow in conversation, but he remained silent. One soldier scratched the top of his head, bemused, and then exchanged words with his partner. A temperature gauge was directed towards Shadow's forehead, followed by further, bewildered expressions between the men. Marnie changed directions and stealthily crept down alleys that led towards the field, then ran against the rain. On the periphery of the town, she glanced back and saw a soldier raising his hand as if to strike her ghost into life. A flock of crows rose in the air and flapped around the border control. Marnie disappeared amongst the long stems of weeds. On entering the house, Marnie inhaled the memories of her childhood and was pleased to see that the mildew gloom was gone. "Tem, where are you?" she shouted. "I need to speak to you." "I'm upstairs in the loft," he called back excitedly. "I've found a treasure trove of useful items." Marnie rushed up the stairs and saw Tem's legs hanging out of the square hole in the ceiling with a stepladder below. "It's amazing. I found boxes of dolls and have been selling them on the net. I'm making a fortune, but now this has happened, I need someone clean to do the deliveries." He lowered himself onto the platform. "Look, babies with wings," he said, smiling kindly, "just like the evil monster which attacked us. I think I remember something like this being a popular toy when I was a kid, not that anyone I knew owned one. You're hoping that with my area pass, I can organise the deliveries. I'll pay you." "There's a huge demand." Tem wiped his dusty hands on his trousers and flicked his hair from his eyes. Tem gave Marnie a cunning look, revealing his sharp, high cheekbones, as his lips broadened into a smile. "This is my crusade against those heathens who were meant to protect, but were more interested in betrayal. I've also found the deeds of the house. The previous owners must have left in such a hurry. You can pay me in another way," she said cautiously. "I have a friend who is ill with the sickness." She wanted to share her news and latest ideas on helping the world survive the outbreak, but Tem was distracted by clattering from outside. He held a finger against his lips and gestured to her to follow him down the stairs. Moving with purpose, he led her to the window in the front room. Tentatively, he drew the curtain back a fraction and looked out. Standing on tiptoe and peering over his shoulder, Marnie saw in the distance the treetops brush against the rushing clouds, pushing them over the slate-grey sky. Her eyes dropped, and her attention focused on a dark figure half swallowed from view by the lashing rain and the branches of a bush. "You see that camera around his neck?" he whispered. That's the form the guns come in these days." An avalanche of terror dropped over Marnie as Tem rushed into the kitchen and headed for the back door. "Wait," she said, catching up and tugging his sleeve. "He might go away." "You mustn't confront him." Tem eased open the door. "He's lurking about the back garden and heading for us." The wind blustered, and a door upstairs slammed. Marnie held her breath as the two watchers rooted to the floor and stared hard at the intruder with fixed eyes. In the dense foliage behind, another figure emerged, and to Tem's relief, he realised it was the red-headed youth he'd met on the streets. Lucas's fearful black eyes darted in the intruder's direction. Then his gaze locked anxiously into Tem's, who mouthed the word "gun," held his arm out with his hand forming the shape of a pistol and pointed at the man who hadn't quite spotted his prey. "Don't worry, I know him," Tem whispered to Marnie just as their assailant caught his eye. Lucas dropped his bag from his shoulders and gently eased it onto the ground. He jumped on the man's back, and Tem rushed to his aid as their assassin slipped on the swollen wet soil and crashed to the ground. In one action, Tem grabbed the camera and pulled the strap over the man's head. Lucas dodged out of the way as the intruder scrambled to his feet and Tem stepped back. The stranger shook his clenched fist with his index finger extended. "You won't get away with this, you idiots!" "I have governmental authority, and we're on your trail." He fiercely shrieked and laughed with contempt. "Perhaps I should kill you now then," Tem retorted. The man's face dropped when he saw Tem holding the camera up and directing the lens at his chest. "No, no!" he cried. "I promise I won't say anything." "Please give me a chance to prove I'm a man of my word," he pleaded with his hands up in the air. Tem lowered the disguised weapon. "The house is booby-trapped with diseased items, and so are we, so anyone touching our corpses will suffer an agonising death. Even hazmat suits won't be a defence," Tem said, hurling his words into the wind, ensuring they reached their target. He eyed the man boldly, but he didn't move, as though he still wanted a fight. "You're being exposed right now, each second receiving a higher virus load. We're contagious and will be dead soon anyway." The man abruptly turned and in frenzied flight ran from the garden. Time blinked as Lucas gawped after him, his moist eyes glistening like a frightened child. He came to, flicked his thick straw lashes against the rain and turned to his friend. Tem planted his hands on either side of Lucas's arms. "You did a good job there, mate." He flashed a crooked smile. "You learn fast, and what perfect timing." "Don't touch me." "I think I'm contagious," Lucas snapped earnestly. "No virus has got me before." "I doubt it will now," Tem replied, and then added, "They'll probably retaliate. Come back in force. I must hide the weapon. How did you find me here?" "I saw you in the town the day after you ran out on me and followed you to see where you slept." "It's too grim to stay out now, but if you want a DOS here, you'll have to cut your chip out," Tem said in a measured voice as he led Lucas inside. "Marnie, what about you?" "You should get rid of yours." Marnie could smell a mingling of sweat and fear and noticed the youth trembling as he passed blindly following his companion. Tem walked towards the stairs and Marnie trailed behind. "I can't take my identity tracker out as it gives me access to my lab." "I'll have to return and see this out," Marnie shouted as Tem raced back up the ladder and into the loft to hide the gun. "I came to find you because I believe we have the antidote in our blood and was hoping to persuade you to become a donor. Sorry, but under the circumstances, that would be a risk too far for me." "I'm sure I could ensure your safety," she said, regretting her words. "Things are changing all the time, and this new virus would appear to be more virulent than any seen since the plague. I'm out." "You're crazy to trust the authorities," he said, and then changed the subject. "The previous owners left a whole treasure trove of stuff up here. I'm going to make my fortune and get the hell away. In times of lockdown, folks turn to the internet for solace." "I'm going to have to hide too, or they'll lock me up as a danger to the public," Lucas interjected. "Although I feel healthy and my thinking seems to be sharper." "That's probably due to lack of booze," he mused. "Hey Marnie, you might want to read this." A piece of paper floated down the ladder and rested on the floor. Marnie picked it up and read, "To whoever comes after us. My husband and I were walking in the woods by the river. The trees creaked in the wind, and we were soon pelted by giant hailstones. To avoid the bombardment, we sheltered under the largest oak. While cowering under the canopy, the strangest thing occurred. The trunk heaved and moved as if pushing an internal object down to the roots. There was a long, agonised moaning in the wind. Looking down, I saw a sack born from a hole in the base. A dark shape was moving inside. I drew my husband's attention to the mysterious object. He, being braver than I, picked up the slimy contents. We scrutinised the creature inside, which was the size of a large bat but with a big head. A claw tore through the skin, and a foul-smelling liquid poured through my husband's fingers, and there was a cute creature lying in the palm of his hand. It looked in every way like a tiny baby, except for small wings sprouting from its back. When I put my finger in its mouth to see if it would suckle, I felt a hard lump embedded in the roof. I pressed it and out fell a stone, and immediately the creature fell asleep. We soon learnt that it needed the stone in place to remain awake. Something invoked compassion within us. It appeared so human, and we couldn't just leave it to die. We took it home, and over the years, loved and nurtured the creature. During this time, we prospered by making dolls in their image, which became very popular amongst children. We grew wealthy, and neither my husband nor I succumbed to the tsunami of viruses flooding the world. Our sweet baby, afflicted with a mutation, needed to be kept hidden from society, as we feared he would be treated cruelly. He thrived, grew strong, and learnt quickly. Eventually we discovered the butcheries of our rabid monster, husks of animals drained of their blood. We realised our angel, who was nothing more than a delight in our company, was truly a demon, ejected from heaven. We couldn't deal with the complexities of his peculiar hunger, and decided to take the stone out and leave him to sleep. We are abandoning our home for a new life. We're sorry, misguided humanity can be a dangerous thing. He is sleeping in a secret space behind the fire in our bedroom. Please leave him to rest. We're not sure of his intent and believe him to be dangerous. Reading the letter sent Marnie's heart into palpitations. What have we done? We've unleashed a monster. It's crazy, isn't it? Thames said, climbing down the ladder, as in one hand he grasped the wrist of a hideous doll. It was bald and white, its red-lipped grin revealed sharp, pointed teeth, and sprouting from its back were dark, bat-like wings. What the hell is that? Lucas exclaimed. It's vile. Actually, it's very popular with parents and children. It reminds them of the first time it circulated in their childhoods. You're mad! I want to escape this and return to the real world, Marnie said, pivoting around and rushing down the stairs. You don't want anything to do with saving the world, and I don't want anything to do with selling evil. The world is doomed anyway, Thames shouted after Marnie, who slammed the back door hard and ran out into the rain, where she met Shadow waiting for her by the bushes. Thank you, story lovers, for continuing to join me on this journey. You may find all my books in all your favourite online stores, Amazon and Audible, under EMG Wixley, or just follow the links provided. Until next time.